Well, greetings, Series 7 test takers. This is the Series 7 guru coming to you from my studio from fabulous Las Vegas with another explication request. This is a margin question. You're only going to get 3 or 4 margin questions. Please don't overdose on margin. In fact, that's what I call my lecture on this. It's all you need. I'll post it in the video description. I'll also post it in a pinned comment. This is a rabbit hole in terms of that. That's for all test prep vendors, by the way. All of them go way overboard on margin in terms of what you're actually going to see. Anyway, so you got a couple things you got to be able to do is you got to know the classical margin equation long market value minus debit equals equity. And you got to be able to do an initial setup. And then you got to be able to do a mark to market after the market moves. So this question says a customer opens a margin account by purchasing 100 shares of ABC at 50, 200 shares of PDQ at 80, and 100 shares of XYZ at common. So if I'm going to do my setup, what I'm going to need to know is what is that market value? So now I have the first part of my classical margin equation, which is the long market value 23. It then says the customer makes the required deposit. So you should definitely know that Reg T is 50%. And so you're going to have to put up 11,500 in equity. That's going to be the margin deposit. Now, Reg T says customers got 2 additional days. So T plus 2 to come up with that 11.5. And that means the broker dealer is going to loan you the balance. So we're going to loan you, that's called the debit register or debit balance. That's what you owe your brokerage firm. The most important thing so far on the whiteboard is to know the classical margin equation. Long market value minus debit equals equity. So we have to be able to do our initial setup. That's our initial setup. And then what we're going to do is a mark to market. By the way, the process is the same. If you've been with me for a while, I haven't told you what this question is. There's no sense telling you what the question is because there's a lot of preliminary work that needs to be done in terms of this question before you even see what the question is. If you have a process, whether it's options or margin, then you have my guarantee that whatever they're going to want to know, you'll have the answers. So now we're going to do a mark to market. It says subsequently, ABC increases to 60. So again, now what we got to do is find out what the new market value is. And so now we're just going to do what's called mark to market and figure what that is. So ABC goes to 60. So that's going to be $6,000. It says PDQ goes to 100. That's going to be $20,000. And XYZ goes to 40, that's going to be $4,000. So the new market value is $30,000. So again, we're going to do our mark to market. The most important thing is the classical margin equation. Long market value minus debit equals equity. So now we have $30,000 in market value. You still owe the brokerage firm 11.5. Please note the debit balance doesn't go up. And my house analogy, if the market value of your house goes up, the mortgage remains the same. And so if your house goes up in value and the mortgage remains the same, you've generated more equity. Equity always represents what you would have if you close the account. Nobody's suggesting you do that. But if you sold off these securities and you paid off the loan, there'd be $18,500 left over. We want to see if perhaps we can't loan you more money. Loaning money to customers is one of our all-time favorite things to do. So I'm going to compare what you have to Reg T to see if perhaps I can't loan you more money. I say, listen, with $30,000 worth of collateral, I'm able to loan you $15,000. You've only borrowed from us 11.5. You have 18,500 in equity. You have $15,000 that we could have extended a loan, Reg T. And so you have 3,500 in excess equity. Now, I don't think it'll cause you any kind of a problem. But you could just think of, for test purposes, excess equity in SMA is one of the same, but they're really not. What I do as a margin clerk is I make a special memorandum to your account that on today you had excess equity of 3,500 SMA, the special memorandum, 3,500. You can either have that as cash, so 3,500 in cash, or you can buy $7,000 worth of additional securities. That's called your buying power. So what we did here is a mark. Based on that new market value, you still owe the brokerage firm 11.5. You have 18.5 in equity. You only need to have 50%. 50% of that is 15. So you have 3,500 in excess equity. Again, in the house example, If you had excess equity in the house, they might extend you a further loan. And we in the margin department are willing to do the same here. Okay, let's see what the question is. The question is, what is the SMA in the account? Well, if you did your initial setup and you did your mark to market, you would have no problem answering correctly that the SMA in this account after the market move is $3,500. Boom. And that in this question ends up being answer B. So that would be our, let me just clean that up. Now be careful what you're being asked. If they would have asked how much additional securities you can buy without making a deposit, that would have been $7,000. So again, the key takeaway on your margin question is to be able to do initial setup. Make sure you know the classical margin equation, which is long market value minus debit equals equity. And then can you do the mark to figure out whether you're below or above 50? And we could have asked other things, right? I would know the 25%. I'd know the 30%. I'd know the debit by 0.75. I know credit by 1.3. You're only getting 3 or 4 questions. And fortunately, we just don't know what those 3 or 4 are going to be. So anyways, hope you found that helpful. Remember, inch by inch, your Series 7 is a cinch. Yard by yard, your Series 7 is hard. And I'll see you for the next explication request.